It's Alan Weiss. I did send it out. It's a 3-bedroom. It's a repair on 555 East State Street. It's a complete system replacement. The fee has been paid. It's deep sands but at about 8 feet there's ledge, but sands above it with a 6-foot water table. So kind of just a medium kind of water table. It's designed for 457 gallons a day. It's a 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank. Uh, I think I made a mistake. I said it's got an outlet filter. I don't think it has an outlet filter. And it's got three 3-foot by 40-foot trenches with 12-inch side walls. Alan did, in fact, design it with the reserve area in between, which I think in a repair, he didn't have to do that. He did ask for a 4-foot water table separation instead of 5 feet. There are no issues with the wetlands or with wells. The whole system is high enough that we don't need ballast. As I noted, that it's a kind of a minimal fill system. The level trenches. It's very, very straightforward. My suggestion is that we do grant the variance from 5 feet to 4 feet. Charlie Kanicki was our representative at the test. And I suggest approval of the septic application subject to our fill regulations and the trench permit. Herb and Lee, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Straightforward system, no issues at all on my side.
Reviewing the drawing, I don't see a problem.
Okay, then we will approve that, Colleen.
Okay.
Next item, minutes for June 8th. I think Herb and I both had comments on it. And you incorporated them, Colleen?
Yes, I think there was just something very minor.
Okay.
That I talked to her about. Yep.
How are we with that? Lee, Herb?
All good.
Yep, I gave my comments.
Okay, so Colleen, I'm good too. So that's good. Next one I have is Colleen's timesheet, normal 70 hours. Colleen, I just have to tell you, I certainly appreciate that you would be flexible with your time and to cover that hazardous waste. I appreciate that you would do that.
Oh, thanks. Sure. Yeah, it was no problem. No problem. They were very nice in South. They were very, very nice. Too.
Good. Herb and Lee, how are you with this one?
All good.
It's the usual 70 hours. It's fine.
Okay, so that's approved. But Colleen, since I don't have a scanner, you're going to have to, we'll just make a note that you're going to have to sign it this time.
Okay.
Next one I have is payments to the treasurer. It's a total of $745. We're at $570 for Board of Health permits and $175 for licenses, as I said, to $745. Lee, Herb, how are you with that?
It's fine.
That's fine. Sure.
Okay, me too. So that's approved. The next one I have is a schedule of payments. We're at Quill for $278.54. Stericycle $597.84. Fred Marion for his inspections of $875 and mileage for 34 for a total of $1785.38. The Quill thing, we already approved the purchase order, but the question I have on the Stericycles, is that just one that comes up and we have to pay, what, every quarter, Colleen?
Yes, I guess that big one, I didn't realize we were getting that. But, yes, I think it kind of comes the same time, every year, and that's for the waste pickup. I don't know if it comes once or twice, but, that'll be it for this, end of the fiscal year here. So, I did look back and we got one last year too, same time.
Okay. Herb and Lee, how are you with this one?
So the quill is the actual payment for the supplies that we approved before, is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
And Fred Marion, this, how did Fred Marion get this sinecure?
Get appointed to this?
Yes,
I don't know how the thing, the long term, I think what probably happened is he was somebody's assistant. Maybe when Vic Gerard retired, Fred was Vic's assistant. And then when Vic retired, I think Fred said he'd be willing to do it. And so it's a thing that we appointed. But I'm not sure Colleen, do we appoint it every year? We must. Must be like
I'd
the
have to
animal
check the
inspector.
files. I think so, but I'm not sure how often he gets appointed. I'd have to look at my files at the office.
I don't, Herb, do you remember I don't remember doing this every year. Lee, do you remember?
No, that's actually a good point that was brought up. When I know we talk about the animal inspector. but
Right,
Never,
we did.
never plumbing. It's just there, but I don't know how it got there.
well, that's why I was asking about this nice sinecure that he has. I'm not objecting to it. I'm only asking how it came about.
No, I get that. And that you raised a good point.
Colleen, can you find out? This is liable to be one that we don't end up having a lot of say over. I'm not sure because it's the plumbing and gas inspector, and it's in a funny spot that we own it for the inspection. But maybe you could just ask Fred how it works. There's
Yeah.
liable to be a state regulation that's in there, kind of like the building inspector. But you can find out.
Mhm. Okay, sure.
Other than that, are we okay with the bill?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, me too. So we're set.
Okay.
The next one that I have is Evelyn Hatch, Breezy Acres Farm, Foods and Milk and Cream, 2 different licenses. Herb and Lee, Eileen, this is a routine one we give out every year, I think.
It is, yes. And they're seasonal, so, and Lynn's aware, Lynn's gonna go out and take a look, so.
Herb and Lee, are you okay with this one?
I am.
Yes.
Me too, Colleen, so they're both approved.
Okay,
The next
All right.
one on my list is a permit for Granby Heights for their swimming pool. And this needs to be inspected by Lynn also. This is a routine one.
yeah, she's scheduled to go out there this Friday.
So what does a swimming pool inspection entail?
Well, there is a form that they go through. I don't have it in front of me, but, and they've got to have a certified pool, operator, which they'll have. So, again, I can,
Well, I think we've
send you
gone,
the form.
yeah, we've gone through it. I think Ernie used to do it, and I forget who else did it, but you have to
Mike
be,
Pandora did it.
yeah, I think you have to be certified to inspect it. But I think the two main things that are, the two main areas, I think one is safety and the other is water quality. So I think they end up with, throwing devices that are there, gates that are locked and fences and then I think you're right. Then the certified operator is the water part of it.
Mhm.
But I think there are other things like having the proper drain at the bottom so somebody can't get sucked against it and drown. And I think there's a series of items that end up having to get looked at.
Yeah, there are.
So does it mean they have to drain the pool to check the suction at the bottom?
I don't think so. I think what it is, I think it's a cage that they ended up having to put on. So there's no way that a body can end up going flat against a grate. And that one is I think not older than 10 years to that safety feature.
And this is required because it is a complex of housing as opposed to an individual house.
Yeah, because it's not a, you're right, exactly what you're saying. It's a community kind of thing.
Hmm. Do we have other community pools in Granby? I don't
No,
remember.
I don't think so. I think
I don't think so.
when I was a kid out on Forge Pond, there was Falk had a pool, but I'm sure that that's not open anymore.
Hmm. Okay, and McDuffie doesn't have a pool?
Not that I know of.
Hmm. And our swimmers from Granby go to South Hadley or
Right.
somewhere else? Yeah,
South Hadley, I believe.
yeah. Okay.
I am too. Lee, are you okay?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay. I've got one that Colleen just put in for Friends of the Granby Veterans for Dufresne Park. I guess what do we have, 3 weeks notice? Is that what we require? Is that what we said, Colleen?
No, I think we said 4, but Mike, this was Mike Pandora stopped by today and he had the old form and he didn't realize it. I mean, I did reach out to a lot of the people. Maybe I missed Mike, but yeah, so he didn't realize it was the 4 weeks, but he does have 3 weeks on it. It's going to be outside at Dufresne. So.
Do we take a hard stand on it or do we?
Why would you want to?
I don't want to at all, other than the fact that we've got a new rule, but for us to say, you know what, how did he know the new rule? And he probably didn't. And so
No,
it's not like he's given us 2 days notice.
So in this case, if we do in fact grant it and then attach a reminder in bold print, FYI, it's going to be a 4-week notice from this date forward. And then, everybody gets what they need. I guess
I think
if that's what you want to go with.
I think that's a great idea because it's sure, I don't feel good about saying, we should be helping this happen.
Exactly.
What's your thought? Or have you already said it?
I already said it, yes.
You did. So we all agree the same thing, Colleen. We'll just make sure that Mike knows it's 4 weeks.
yeah, I gave him a new form with that written right on it and I told him about it. So.
Okay, so that's
Okay.
going to be fine.
Perfect. Yep.
That will be fine.
Okay.
Let's see, we're 7:13. I do not see Alan yet. So I guess until Alan gets here, we keep going. Title V inspection report, 17 Deerbrook by Nick Toretti with a conditional pass. It said that the septic tank needs to be replaced. Do we accept this, Lee? In fact, has it been all done?
The Title V was done. I'm not aware that the tank and distribution box has been replaced at this point in time.
But in terms of, is there a reason we shouldn't accept this report? I think not. I think we not accept it, receive it.
Yeah, I agree. That should not be an issue receiving this report.
Is this for a new house at that address?
It is not.
It's not. Okay.
They're selling the property, and those two components were in non-passing condition.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So are you okay with it too, Herb?
Yes.
Me too, Colleen. So we
Okay.
receive it. We got a complaint at 20 New Ludlow Road. Colleen, your complaint that you took said that there was they had flooded basements and the owner put in a sump pump, and now the tenant thinks that maybe there could be mold, maybe there could be, and that
Mhm.
their kids are starting to feel sick, and maybe the mold, if it's there, is causing their kids to be sick.
That's what she,
My note
replied, yeah.
to you, Colleen, was that New Ludlow Road has very, very high water tables. And people put sump pumps to control it. And as I recall, the Board of Health does not, and the housing code doesn't go in and say, if someone thinks there might be mold, that we open that door and go checking and checking until we prove there's no mold. Is that, Herb, Lee, is that correct?
I have no idea whether that's correct.
I believe in the past, Herb, that's pretty much what we a long time ago ended up doing. I mean, my way of thinking is that none of us have the expertise to make that judgment of it in the visual, and the visual doesn't count, I don't think. I mean, you can see mold, but I don't know if there's different types of mold that can or can't cause any respiratory distress. I'm completely ignorant on this topic.
Well, you may not be able to see mold. It could be behind the walls. It could be anywhere.
Sure.
But to start ascribing symptoms to something that you don't know for sure is there, it doesn't seem to me to be a very reasonable way to go.
I think that we should let this one pass and say, yep, they're put the sump up in. If someone says, no, the cellar is still flooded and it doesn't work, I think that's a different issue. But these are also the same tenants that the neighbors were complaining because the tenants wouldn't bring the trash out to the road.
Yeah.
And
Oh, okay. I have to believe in that particular location that a sump pump I can't see how it could be a new install. Because the water table is probably a foot or so below surface, maybe 18 inches at the most. Very
Yeah.
high over there, as pointed out earlier.
We don't regulate sump pumps, do we?
No,
No,
no.
No,
oh, but if you,
Thank you
if there,
anyway.
if there truly was a flooded basement that stayed flooded, then the flood would be something that we said isn't healthy.
right, it's not healthy, but what does that have to do with us?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I tried to call her back on it, and I haven't gotten a return call, so
Okay.
yeah.
Then we won't act on it.
Yeah.
Or we can say there's not from a Board of Health standpoint, so we will act, and that will say the board after discussion, the board felt that this is not a Board of Health issue.
Okay.
I see Alan is still not here. Well, in the event that Alan doesn't show up, we did act on Alan's thing. And so we'll just let him know that we approved the variance and we approved the application subject to our fill regulations and the trench permit.
Okay.
The next one is Colleen's request to carry over unused vacation. You've got 29 and a half hours the next fiscal year. Is this an acceptable thing to do? You're allowed to do that, Colleen?
Yes, I am. I just need it, in writing or, at a board, meeting so I can tell Chris, yes, you said that was fine. But yes, it's in my contract that I can carry it over.
Lee and Herb, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, why not?
Are you going to go somewhere good?
I hope so.
I'm okay with this too. So Colleen, you can tell Chris that we're okay.
Okay.
I guess maybe you have to answer Herb's question. Maybe his approval is subject on how good a place you're going to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to skip the excellent grants, the shared stuff that I think that's a good discussion to end on. Dollar General 4 base is there, but Colleen, that letter went out.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
And I noticed that Greg sent out a thing saying, it looks like after Herb and you sent your pictures out and then Lee sent out the same conditions on his pictures, but it looks to me like the building inspector said after that, the stuff started growing like crazy in there. So we'll see. Have you heard anything back, Colleen, from them?
No, I haven't heard anything, but I know they're aware of it because I spoke to the district manager about it. So I told him the letter was coming.
We do need to follow up on that. That is a public health nuisance that should not be allowed to continue.
Now, we gave them till into July though, right?
Yes, the middle of the 16th of July, I think it said.
Okay, so so you should keep going on that so it doesn't, in fact, maybe on your for the next meeting, at least put a note on this item that whatever the date is, so we remember, because it means that before the following meeting, something has to be done. And I'm going to suggest at the next meeting that we get back to them and say, hey, you're supposed to get this corrected, and we haven't heard anything, but maybe we will. But if you put as a tickler there, it'll make us remember.
Yep. Okay.
The mail, email, the governor, it looks like the governor did sign that extension that allows us to Zoom. And I haven't seen the full text. but it looks like it's the April 22nd we're allowed to Zoom. Herb,
That's what I saw. I think
have you
April.
read anything on it?
I have not.
Okay. It doesn't require action on our part other than to say we're okay.
Should
I
I
did-
cancel the dates from the public safety complex that I
Yeah, I
scheduled? or-
think so. Herb and Lee, are you all set with it? Well, the last meeting, we said we're gonna keep this up. So if that's the case, we don't even need to discuss it. We already discussed it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so you can do that.
Okay.
I have one thing that I sent out on the shots. And as I've looked, and as you look at shot numbers, last week we ended up getting 31 first doses, and that's it. And so we're at almost 69% of the eligible people. So it's 3,787 first doses. We've got 60% of fully vaccinated, although last week there were 104 of those shots. But as I look around, especially I started out here at the Cape and saying, how in the world are these guys getting 95 plus for fully vaccinated? And then when I looked at Hampshire County, I saw, we're doing okay compared to everybody else, except Williamsburg has got 95 plus for fully vaccinated. So something's really different than some of these places. And do we want to, I'm at the putting it out to Herb and Lee. Are we in a spot that we're happy with these numbers, or are we in a spot that we'd like to do something to try to get them up?
Well, what do you suggest?
Well, the first one is to say, are we happy?
No, it isn't. You're suggesting that we are deficient. What do you suggest doing differently?
I can remember, well, one thing we could do, it's probably been a little while since we've done anything on robocalls, or you were doing a whole bunch of stuff at one point, Herb, for GCAM.
Yes, you dismissed all of it in your email.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry you took it that way, because it's certainly not what I was intending to do.
Well, that's exactly the way I took it. Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, because it certainly wasn't meant that. And
And
what I
suggesting
really,
anything about Kellogg Hall, which took years to paint. We contributed money to Kellogg Hall years before it got painted. So to use that as a paragon of virtue seemed a stretch.
well, the only reason I said it is it gives some visibility to where we are. And I don't think we've got visibility, but I'm not sure giving it visibility helps. But
Do you know that the data from other towns is in fact correct?
I can't guarantee you that.
Well, I think that would be the first place that I would check. 95%, I'm suspicious. Sorry, I'm suspicious. Because it's really an outlier to almost everyone else. It's tough to get younger people to accept vaccination right now. It's very tough.
Yeah. How do we, maybe maybe Colleen, since you made the 2 calls to Orleans, and I chose those 2 because I had looked in the past and found that the Cape had good numbers, especially after Channel 22 reported that the Cape was getting no vaccinations. And when I looked, I said, this is crazy. It's exactly the opposite. Maybe is to go back to Orleans, which was the same size town as Granby, and ask them if in fact those are right numbers, and go to Williamsburg and find out if they're right. Because
How many of those 95% are really residents, and how many of them are transients that are being counted?
well, if my understanding, it's done the same as Granby. It's where you're residing, but I don't
Yeah.
know that. I can't guarantee you that. So, but it's
Well, if they
certainly.
can,
Go
if they
ahead.
can vaccinate 95%, I'd like to know how they did it, because that would be very different than the vast majority of towns around us, our regional towns, our national towns, cities. It would be very different than almost everywhere else. So I'd love to know how they accomplish that.
And that's what. So, Colleen, maybe you can dig in a little bit, as Herb is saying. The first thing is find out if in fact it's true, because
Yeah,
I find it difficult to understand, especially when the 2 places you went to said, "Oh, we've got a strong council on aging." If you said, "Yeah, that means they got everybody over 65, they really got vaccinated," I could understand that. But as Herb is just saying, how can the council on aging end up convincing a 27-year-old to go get vaccinated?
right.
So it's, if it's not real, then trying to go up with a program to have a goal of doing something that you can't reach is a waste of everybody's time.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I'll give them a call and see what they say.
Okay.
The other thing is, going on what Herb's saying, if that in fact is happening, why in the world would the governor not be looking at these 20 towns with 95 plus and say, whatever you guys are doing, we should be, and the Department of Public Health should be saying, hey, Granby and everybody else, the other 371 towns that aren't doing this, this is how you make it work.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I think the point also is public health in the state of Massachusetts has a long way to go to be relevant.
So now, if we want, at this point, if we can combine the excellence grant and the request for proposal for the local support, I'm looking at four things that are sitting on our table. One of this is what we were trying to do on our own on doing the shared services. We've got South Hadley that seemed to say, well, we've already got something going with Hadley, but we're willing to contract with you for services. We've got Amherst that looks like there's 2 programs, that one of which is following up with the grant that's coming for contact tracing, and the other one is reaching out to underprivileged And then we've got Northampton's, which seems to be saying we're going to offer something on communicable diseases, nursing services, and data collection, and willing to let this be the stepping stone for bigger things in the future. And I just remind us that in the 116-page report, the the writers suggested that hooking up with towns that have a hospital in the town is a very advantageous thing to be doing. And I think, Herb, you probably know it. Cooley Dick is hooked up with what, Mass General?
Well, some of their programs are tied to Mass General. I wouldn't think that all of them are. Their oncology program is, and I think perhaps their GI program.
Okay. So what, Lee and Herb, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking very simply. Ludlow has not gotten back to me after I had a discussion with one of their Board of Health members who has a public health background. And part of the reason that Ludlow probably isn't interested is because they have someone that I think is like Sharon Hart and kind of running the Board of Health, and she is not interested in any way. I think South Hadley has been, in my estimation, a total disappointment. That Sharon Hart has not demonstrated any initiative, to me anyway, or anything that would reflect initiative. Chicopee never got back to me in any way. So that is a bust. Meredith O'Leary in Northampton is a public health dynamo, and she's already funded, and I think that we should tie our wagon to Northampton and Meredith O'Leary and the program that they are putting forth. In the same way, I think that Amherst and Emma Dragon perhaps have things that we could benefit from. When you look at the size of Granby and the resources in Granby, which are essentially nil, tying ourselves to bigger places with more potential for resources, more ideas from people who are getting paid to actually do these things. So it's their job description to do this. Makes sense to me. So my simplistic idea is both Northampton and Amherst are towns we ought to be tying up with. And first and foremost with Northampton, because Meredith O'Leary, I think, is terrific. And I think Emma has a lot of enthusiasm for this. I tried to convince Emma that her singular approach to program was not what the state was looking for. I resent her our draft information about shared services. I don't know whether she has rewritten things because I haven't seen anything from her on that. My sense is little old Granby needs to tie itself to some people that have resources. namely Northampton and Amherst.
Lee, what is your thought? I will tell you right now, before we go,
Yeah.
I think that Northampton, I agree completely with what Herb is saying, other than Amherst to me doesn't cut it exactly, in that the two programs are focused programs, not look, as Herb just finished saying, not big enough where when you read what Northampton says, they definitely are taking a broader view of things. So I could support sending a letter, the letter that the Northampton's looking for, letter of support. I could support sending that. Lee, what is your thinking?
No, I agree. I'm just thinking outside of the conversation, because you mentioned earlier about a community with a hospital is going to be a good fit. Northampton fits the bill, but also Holyoke does. We have a working relationship, small but working relationship with Lynn to do some inspections out this way. Could she possibly be beneficial in at least starting a conversation with someone in the city of Holyoke if Northampton doesn't pan out?
I think it's way too late, Lee. Way, way,
Okay.
way too late. That's just my opinion now. I'm not telling you what the answer is to that. But too late.
We've got,
Okay.
I think with Northampton, didn't they say the 9th of July is when we would have to have the letter in? I don't see the downside of sending the letter of intent or whatever it's called. I don't think we haven't committed because it's not defined totally yet.
I don't see a downside to either Northampton or Amherst. Not a downside to us. You may not think there's as much upside, but I don't think it's going to cost us to be supportive or to suggest that we would like to be included.
Then I'll make a suggestion. I'll make a suggestion that we send the letter of support to Northampton.
Well, I'll second that, and I'll make another suggestion. I think we should send a letter of support, 2 letters of support to Amherst for their shared services and for their tracking, neither of which we're able to deal with on our own.
I'm concerned with the Amherst one. I'm concerned that it's really focused. And also, knowing that we've got whoever we go with these shared service, we have to be on a board of directors and go to meetings, and to hook up with 2 towns doesn't make sense to me at all.
Well, I disagree with that because we have no ability to do these things ourselves. No ability. And you could argue, well, we don't need that much ability. We don't have that many people. We're not going to have that much in the way of problems. And I hope you're right. But I have my own sense that that perhaps personalities are involved in this, and that's a little disturbing to me.
Well, Herb, if you're talking about me, it's disturbing that you would say that. If you're not talking about me, that's fine.
No, I'm talking. I'm talking about Emma Dragon
I understand.
and her sense of whether she would even want to be involved with us. And if you ask why that is, Dick, we could go into that in detail, but I'm not prepared to do that.
Again, knowing the complications of what's described in the shared services, I'm not prepared to hook up with two towns and be on two boards of directors. I think it's a big mistake to hook up. I would hope that if you do what you proposed, or what our draft was, is that we're going to really, ultimately, really hook up with somebody with very broad sharing. And if that's our intent, that's my intent, then to hook up with someone and get headed down the road is a lot different than hooking up with two people and try to go in two different directions.
Well, there's a tracking proposal and there's a shared services proposal, as you're aware, Dick. Two different things.
Lee, I'm not hearing anything from you.
I'm thinking, Herb, help me out here. Is the tracking more of a priority than the other, or are they both equally really important, or the one should be done and one's maybe not?
I don't know how to answer that, Lee. I would, we have a Maven system now. It's obviously a new system. It's a system that's under investigation to see whether it works. And I guess it's important. How important has it been pragmatically to us in Granby, the Maven system? I don't know, Lee. I think the sense of true shared services, as I think will come out of Northampton, is probably more important. The shared services proposed by Amherst is a more programmatic thing, as opposed to that is a more focused thing, as opposed to a broader approach that we were thinking about with our draft. So I understand what Dick is saying. My issue with this is we're left out in the cold unless we sign up with someone. And I think the someone number one, as I said, at least as I thought I said, is Northampton. I'm not sure that I see the downside to the tracking proposal in Amherst. Will we need to be on a board? I don't know. Actually, my computer has, I don't know what it's done, and I don't know how to fix the darn thing. So I can't even really reread the stuff right now. I'm doing this off my iPad, and my iPad just doesn't allow me to really reread the stuff. So my first priority would be Northampton, Meredith O'Leary, their public health initiative. I think they have it together. And I think Meredith is someone you would, and I would, and Dick would be proud to work with.
Okay, well, that being said, and I think Dick is a big fan of the Northampton program, if we give them our nod and communicate to them initially, and if they take us under their wing, that's great. If they don't, at that point, do we regroup and give Emma a call?
I think they are asking us to join. I don't believe the issue in Hampshire County is to say, please apply to us and we will vet you and throw out those that we don't want to include. That's not what I don't believe that's what it's all about. It's to try and develop a consortium.
I support your view on that, Herb, 100%.
Yeah, I think they are seriously trying to improve public health in Hampshire County. I think that Amherst is trying to do the same thing. I can't speak to that as clearly.
Okay. Well,
It sounds like
I
the three of us are at least saying that going with Northampton, all three of us are saying we should do that. What we haven't done is close on Amherst.
I would agree that that's where we are right now, Dick. But we also have to realize we don't have very much time to close one way or the other. We're not going to have another meeting for 2 weeks. I'm not sure that that allows us, although I am not sure that we can't give a conditional letter of acceptance based on what will happen at a next meeting. And I would say that would give me more chance to review things.
Or by the two programs, and I'd have to read them again. The things that I saw from Amherst were items that I believe were very focused and not germane. The first one was on the table that Emma sent out was we were going to end up of all the work that was being done on the underprivileged. It turns out that it was like 2% of our population was involved. And when I read it, I said, this one doesn't fit well. And then the second one that came out was taking over for the contact tracing. And I said, gee, if we really don't have any cases, those are two programs. If you look at our own limited resources, we should focus, my view was should focus on our limited effort on some place that looks like it's got a better chance at fitting our bigger program. And that would be clearly Northampton. So I can support that. I'm not good with Amherst right now. And it has nothing to do with personalities.
We have a Delta variant that perhaps is affecting 20% of infections right now and doubling at an extraordinary rate, probably an exponential rate. We have no idea what's going to happen We love our 0 cases, Colleen. That's
Yeah.
one of the highlights of my day when I see that. But I don't think that that's going to continue, because the younger people who are not getting vaccinated are going to be spreading these variants all over the place. And the variants are not going to stop with this Delta variant. So contact tracing, I think, will be important. It's not right now, and I love it that it isn't, but I think it will be.
I think we should at least right now close, if we're at a spot that 3 of us agree, we should move the issue that we say we are going to send the letter to Northampton. If we agree to that, we should not lose this minute. We should
All right.
move that.
All right, do we need a motion to that effect? I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. So that's carried unanimously. So that we have to look at the letter. Herb, do you want to look at that letter and get it out of here?
Look at what letter, Dick?
There's a letter that was, in fact, there are 2 emails that were sent. One of them didn't have the letter attached. But
Right.
But if
Yes.
you can't get into it, then that's no good. And
Well, if Colleen can send it to me, can you get into that, Colleen? Because if you can send it to me, I'm happy to look at it.
Okay, I'll look for it tomorrow. I should have it. Yep, I should be able to.
if you don't have it, I certainly can get it because I have it.
Okay.
So we're definitely, I'm a long way away from closing on getting a second town going.
Well, you and I have different feelings about that.
We do, for sure we do,
Yes.
for sure. So Lee, maybe this is one of the times that we're not going to reach consensus in the time frame that we have available to us. You want to, Herb, do you want to talk some more about it?
No, I think I want to re-review the thing from Amherst that I can't access right now. And then if there is a window for tentative involvement, I think that would be reasonable. And then at our next meeting, we would formally take up the issue and decide whether or not we wanted to be involved in either of their proposals. By the way, my wife would say either of those proposals.
I'm willing to do that. To get more knowledge is never a bad thing. And if we can, as long as we can support it in time, I think it's foolish to close the door when we don't all together saying we know exactly what we're saying yes or no to. That is not a good thing. Lee, what are your thoughts? Just as long as everybody knows what Herb just said, is we are not committing my feeling is we did commit to signing to Northampton. We did not commit to a final decision with Amherst. Herb, is that
That's,
what you see this as?
Yes, Dick, that is correct.
yep,
But my sense is that we may have an intermediate tentative letter that might go to Amherst that would allow us time to re-review this at our next meeting.
That is what I thought you said, and that is how I understand it. Lee, is that what you understand our course of action is going to be?
that's exactly correct.
Okay, so we've closed
Yeah.
on both of these.
Now, this may not be the right time, but I'll bring it up anyway. The governor and the lottery are trying to stimulate, I believe, the younger crowd to get the vaccines. There's a random $1 million drawing for those people in the state who have gotten vaccinated. And I believe it starts July 1st. Or whether or not that's something we bring up somehow and communicate to remind the people of the town of Granby about this little game the state's putting on to increase numbers or not, may not be, it's not, the quote unquote professional medical side of life, but maybe it's what a 30 or 35-year-old kid wants to hear about, that they get vaccinated, they could win $1 million. But that's just something in the background. I just heard it on the news about 6 days ago.
And what were you thinking, Lee, that somehow we get that out on the,
I mean, because I know we talked about some type of a future broadcast on the town network, and maybe that's something that is, I don't know if it's going to be appropriate or not to even talk about that, but just to stimulate the younger crowd from doing what they seem to not want to be part of right now for some reason. I can't understand it.
Well, Lee, it's my sense that the cable network is viewed perhaps by old people, perhaps by people who want to look at the town meeting or one of these meetings. I don't believe that 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, any of the people we're talking about are going to be looking at those programs, and they're certainly not going to be listening to the robo calls, which are going to their parents or whomever. That's not to say
Right.
that everything might not help. But if you want to get to the younger people in town, then you got to talk to Jennifer Silva, people like that who know how to use Facebook and Instagram, which lots of the people are involved with. It's got to go out on Facebook and Instagram. Now, it turns out that GCAM has accounts as well, but Jennifer would be someone who could help us communicate that kind of information if we want to do that.
Okay. I mean, that's a great suggestion.
I'm not a prude about the lottery. If the lottery would make people get their shot, I'd be happy to see someone from Granby win $1 million or wherever they're from. If that'll increase the vaccinated people. These variants are going to wreak havoc. We're all complacent right now. We are getting, maybe we aren't complacent, but we're getting complacent. It's 0 new cases. Nobody's dying. Well, I suspect it's all about to change. So I think anything we can do that helps is probably worthwhile, Lee. So I think that's a good suggestion.
I've got one that, and I don't know how to reopen it, but Nancy Jinks is listening in, but I've kind of lost my link with the school safety committee. That school's over and it's not meeting, and Carol Hepworth is in her last few days of being superintendent. But it seems to me that the schools are going to come back and bite us really hard with this Delta, at least, and whatever is coming after it. But I would love to go in and go after the schools. And for one place, if you look at the sports, why not go that Allie is very aggressive at the sports. Why don't we try to get the Allie and say, Allie, get those kids vaccinated so that they can do indoor sports? And is there some link in there to let the schools be very aggressive? I know the last couple times I've talked to McDuffie, they've got a lot more power over their students than the public schools, but they really are talking, other than the Chinese kids that they're afraid are coming in with substandard vaccinations. They really are saying our whole faculty and student body is going to be vaccinated. Do I try to get back in? Do I go to Stephen Sullivan and say, hey, we've got a couple months here. Let's see what it takes to get something done.
Hi, Dick. It's Nancy.
How are you, Nancy?
I'm well. You do bring up a really good point. I have the state mobile vaccine group coming in again on Friday for the folks who are coming to get their second shot. Some of them it'll be their first, but part of, I think, the problem that we're running into is the state is changing the guidelines again. And I think a lot of folks are just, we're being told that everything is getting lifted in the fall, and it's making it challenging because we don't have any formal guidance from the state to make it mandatory for COVID vaccines. And even last year in August, when we kind of got a 2-hour warning from DPH that they were going public about the flu vaccine, we had significant kickback from the public about requiring it. So, and that was through DPH. So it's kind of challenging because the state's saying everything's lifted. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. And, the schools, I think, the administration's aware. I've told them, I said, we're not out of the woods yet. The nursing team is very nervous about what the fall's going to look like. Just not knowing the reality and knowing our kids under 12 are not vaccinated, but we're trying to offer opportunities, but they're not signing up. So it's making it challenging. We have staff too who have declined to get vaccinated. And so, we're trying our best, but we've got a couple, I think, obstacles in front of us in terms of getting that 100%. And respecting people's rights at the same time. But it's really, I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
I am, but what I'm wondering is that, every one of those athletes has a coach. can the coaches talk to each one of those athletes and say, this may be what's coming, that this Herb, I don't know if you listened to Herb, that on this Delta variant, which I agree, the Greek alphabet doesn't end with Delta. And this disease is going to be a nasty variant.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you. I've coached cross country this spring with our runners, and it definitely was a topic of conversation with the kids. I did help Allie with the wrestling team, and we pretty much had almost the entire team vaccinated. So, encouraging that, especially with them being in contact with each other, I think helped in that area in terms of encouraging it. Again, I don't know what the MIAA is going to require in the fall. Same thing, spring sports just occurred. But I do think, like you're saying, it's definitely warrants an important conversation and really encouraging kids to get it. I just don't know if the district can mandate it with it not being required by the state. I personally wish we, could have something done to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe. But I feel like, we've got, like I said, obstacles that are, kind of in the way.
Okay, that's my fear. My fear is we're gonna have masks in the fall, and we're gonna have the Board of Health coming in and saying this is too dangerous to have sports.
Right.
Or indoor sports.
Well, even our guidance for the masks has just changed with the state again, and they had told us all of the guidance was coming from DPH, and it's continuing to come from DESE. So it's frustrating because it's, especially towards the end of May and the beginning of this month, it was coming out like once or twice a week. They kept changing everything, so it's making it hard to. They're saying folks who are vaccinated, they're encouraged, but they're not required to wear a mask now. Like it's, during summer school. So it's those types of things that make it challenging to keep everybody safe.
Okay.
We could have a longer conversation about it later if you want, Dick.
Okay. Thanks, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Nancy, I will send you an email in response to an email from Dick that talks about some of these things. But I'll shoot that off to you after we get done, because I do refer to you as being very active in this process.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm trying.
Yeah.
And Nancy, I know since we talked every week or 2 weeks, I know very much how involved you are and how trying this has been.
I know. I feel sometimes it's hard with the powers that be to keep everybody safe when there's other things happening that are out of our control, kind of restricting that.
So unless we have anything else, I think we can end our meeting.
I move we end the meeting.
Okay. Good night, everybody.